Man, talking to you about this whole situation. We're in a we're in a very odd time here in the United States of America. First things first, Thursday, where were you when you guys found out? Where was Rider Wrestling? Where were you at? Where were you and your coaches and your athletes at when you got the news the NCAA Division I tournament was canceled in Minneapolis?
We actually had an early practice at 11:30 because we have a break in between classes Thursdays and Tuesdays between 11:30 and 1. So we had done our workouts, and then we were just following Twitter. We were waiting for emails. We were waiting for notification to see what was going to happen, if anything. And then I actually had a individual workout with my son. He was preparing for the New Jersey Youth State Tournament, which was supposed to be yesterday, which also ended up getting canceled. So we were actually driving home, and Nick called me, my assistant, and said, "Did you see it?" I said, "See what?" He goes, "They canceled it." So I was actually driving home in the car with my son from work after, trying to follow it all day. And it was just such a somber moment. It was just like quiet over the car. Like, he's like, "Really? It got canceled?" And then I had to tell him a couple hours later that his tournament had gotten canceled, all that stuff. So it was just it was a tough day in the Hangey household for sure.
You lived through 9/11, and you guys aren't far from the whole epicenter of 9/11. And obviously, they attacked our eastern seaboard. D.C., you guys aren't far from D.C. Obviously, you're not far from the city in New York City.
Right.
And that's the best thing that I have to go by to compare this to people. And I know, I just talked to Patty Gallagher. He's a 17-year-old kid. Your son, how old's your son?
He's 14.
So we're talking about two teenagers who don't even understand. They've never seen and they've never lived anything like this.
Right.
They played the NCAA basketball, the Final Four, through World War II. Did you know that?
I did know that.
That's insane. And now we're in a situation.
They shut down Broadway through all those wars. This is the first time they've ever shut down Broadway.
The whole thing is just so. And I know there's people who are, it's overkill. It's too much. You and I both work in education. We work with young people, and the liability issues are just so high.
Off the charts. You have to do what you're being told to do to protect the young kids that we work with. No question.
It's just that simple. And this is to protect old people. Sure. But I got parents who are 70, 71, 72. You probably got, if your parents are still alive.
70, 71.
There you go. We got parents the same age. So, yeah, we want them to live. We need that.
Absolutely.
We need them. I want my dad around, and he's in a really unique situation where my mom's down in Florida. He's up here. He wants to get back, and I'm like, dude, you can't fly. You can't fly.
You can't.
And he came back to watch my nephew, who qualified. He won his district. He won his sectional, and he was on course to be competitive for Oak Harbor, where we're from. And it's just wild because that's why he's here. He's here to watch wrestling. And I had another nephew who qualified as a freshman to their district. So that's why my dad's here. It's for wrestling. So this whole thing is it's surreal. Would you say is that the best way to describe it?
Absolutely. It's something that you could never expect. You were hearing about it, and then all of a sudden it was like a rolling domino that you could not stop. Once the NBA made that decision, it just rolled to everything else. And when it starts that big, it's rolling downhill.
Yeah.
Everything smaller than it, which is unfortunately the NCAA, youth wrestling, schools, you name it, everything's following suit no matter what.
It's like the snowball down the hill, man. It just, this effect where things just keep building. And, I got a buddy, you probably know him, you remember him from Garfield, Ardian Ramadani. He's Newark, New Jersey. He works for he worked for the Port Authority. Now he works at Newark Airport. He's a cop over that way. He's had a couple different jobs. He worked at World Trade Center 1, the new one that they built, the Freedom Tower. He's been all around, right? He's essential. Those guys don't get time off.
No, they don't.
And you guys,
scary. Like, if you're in that kind of field or you're in the medical field, you have zero choice, but you have to do your job, and you have to be even more precautious than what we're doing, just protecting the few people that stay at our house.
Yeah. Ardian Ramadani is going to work every day. His kids are off school. He's going to work. They just canceled us here in Ohio through April 3rd. April 6th is a Monday. So that's when the first time we would go back. But St. Edward is canceled through April 20th.
That's when my kids' schools are canceled through.
Okay. So
that's 5 weeks. That's half a summer vacation. Dad.
Yes, we're probably not going back to school. I listened to the governor of Ohio, Mike DeWine, talk today, and I'm just gaining a whole lot of wisdom from people in this because, I love to talk to people and I like to have you guys tell your story. But Terrell Delagnev, the guy's such a smart guy, right? I mean, just talking to him and I gained so much wisdom from you guys. But what do you think that you want? What do you take from this? This is such a surreal thing. Nobody knows what to do with themselves. Colin Moore doesn't know what to do with himself. Zach Carson doesn't know what to do with himself. These are fifth-year seniors. Jesse, one of your guys, he's a fifth-year senior, isn't he?
Yep.
They don't know what to do with them.
3 fifth-year seniors that were at national qualifiers that are just, SOL, so to speak.
Yeah, they're just out of luck, man.
You can keep out optimism and hope that the NCAA comes back and does the right thing for those kids and allows them the discretion to whether they continue another year or not. But there's so many layers to that onion that you have to keep peeling back with credits and scholarships and enrollment and all. There's millions of topics of discussion that everybody's thought about at that point. So it's just, I don't even know how to advise our kids. I just told them, I love you. I think you're great kids. You've worked your butt off, and it's not fair, but life isn't fair, and there's nothing I can do for you, And it's like you said earlier, we're in education, and we're supposed to help young kids and guide them and advise them and be mentors to them. I got no idea what to say to these kids because this is unprecedented. It's like everybody just has to go back and just be with their families and be isolated for as long as they tell us to be so that we can get back together and hopefully, return to some sort of normalcy, whether that's 5 weeks, 8 weeks, 10 weeks, whatever it may be, But it's heart-wrenching to not be able to explain something to the kids that you've coached and worked with so long that you don't have an answer for them, and that's really hard.
And you're, like a lot of these guys, you're like a second father to them. Some of them don't even have a father. You are their father. And I think it's real hard when you got someone who the person you always look to for answers for 4 or 5 years, maybe even your life, now you don't have an answer for them. That's hard.
Yeah, it really is because I told them, I said, at this point, after when we had that Thursday call that Nick and we found out that the NCAAs were canceled, I sent a text, called the guys. I said, look, you just got to go home after your classes tomorrow and play it by ear. I'll keep you posted on anything I find out. I had to send a text to all their parents, saying I'm sorry for something that I never even did or had anything to do with, but I was just sorry for their son losing out on the opportunity to pursue their dream and to see it through to the end. Whether they went 0-2 or they were national champ, I wanted them the ability to see it through to the end, and that's just not fair. And I know life isn't fair, but man, when you pour your heart and soul into something, you want to at least have it finished, on your own terms, and that's not what happened.
John, you're an All-American. You're third in the country for Ryder, right?
Yes.
Jesse's not going to get he's probably not going to get that opportunity. He's a 4 seed in a weight class where he can make some noise. He can make a national final. He's right there. A guy like that, what do you even say to those guys right now? What do you say to a guy like that right now?
I just told him, I said, Jesse, you're an amazing kid. I said, you've done everything that we've ever asked you to do to the best of your ability. I said, we've been actually gathering paperwork to apply for a 5th year or 6th year for him because of his transfer from Binghamton. There's some medical things that we can build a case on. So with that and this, I'm still trying to talk him into using it, though, because he's not sure what he's going to do. He doesn't know what his future holds. He doesn't know if he wants to pour his entire heart and soul into the lifestyle again, because it is such a disciplined and sacrificed lifestyle that it's hard to duplicate year after year after year. And he's in a great spot. We were really excited about his opportunity. When you're seated 4th in the tournament at the NCAAs, you've done a lot of things right. And you're in position to get on that podium in one of those 8 spots. And he had wrestled so well at the conference tournament, and he was on target. He was on target, ready to do this. And it's like he just took away a dream. His dad was devastated. I had to talk him off the ledge on a conversation because he's such a passionate dad as well. But no matter what I said to Jesse, he just listened. He respectfully listened to me, but he was just, there was no getting through to him. I mean, there's nothing I could do to console him. There was nothing that I could do to make it easier of a pill to swallow. It was just, he was just totally devastated there, for lack of better terms. There was nothing I could do to talk him out of it. And selfishly, I was devastated for him, but in a good way, because, I mean, as a coach, as a head coach, I haven't had an All-American yet. And this is my third year. And I know we were going to have one, if not two, this year. Just the way our kids were wrestling, the attitude they had, positions in the brackets, we were hopeful that that was going to happen. And that's me being selfish. But when this goes down, it's like, all right, I can't even put myself in those kids' shoes, because this is beyond anything I've ever had to deal with. And I don't know how they handle it. I really don't.
Who are your 4 national qualifiers? Laird, Delvecchia,
Sherry, and Cloud are heavyweight.
Dean, you're 74?
Dean are 74, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then, another one, Pete. Pete transferred, right?
Yes, Pete transferred.
Yeah, I mean, that's another one,
Pete out of the conference tournament.
Yeah, but that's crazy. That's another guy, though, who, think about that guy's whole year. What's that guy's year been like?
Yeah. Now we're trying for another year for him as well, because of when he was at Rutgers, he had one of his best friends, Sam Cali, passed away.
Okay.
He went through a pretty tough time at that moment, so we're putting forth paperwork for him as well at this time. So hopefully we get that. But he doesn't fall into the category of Jesse, because Jesse at least qualified for the NCAA tournament. Pete's season was over, so I don't know how the NCAA is going to view that. So they have to do the right thing for these kids. They have to leave it up to the kids, in my opinion. I don't think there's any, and I know we finished 99% of our season, but that doesn't matter. This is unprecedented waters. They've already directed the schools to, talk about legislation, talk about waivers, talk about all sorts of things to go outside of the box. And I think that's only fair. They've already given it to the spring sports. I think they need to give the winter athletes a chance to decide whether they want to use it as redshirt year or not.
John, this is such it's such a lifestyle thing when we talk about it. It is. If you look at the UFC, Division I wrestling is the breeding ground for all your future champions. Stipe qualified for Cleveland State. Obviously, DC was a finalist. Cormier was a finalist for, Oklahoma State. We can go up and down the list all day, man. Usman's a D2 national champ. So this is such a tough lifestyle. You got to understand, as far as the intensity of their lifestyle and their training, most of those guys talk about that. Fighting's way easier in D1 wrestling. You realize that's a thing. A lot. You do. That's not me making that up. I've heard that on multiple occasions from those guys.
Yes.
Amateur wrestling in general. Obviously, Henry never wrestled Division I, but I mean, Henry's a very different. Henry's Henry, right? We don't really put Henry in that, but you look at it. Amateur wrestling is the toughest thing you can do. Obviously the fighting where you can kick and punch and knee someone, that's really the toughest thing you can do. But the toughest preparation for that is Division I wrestling. Colin Moore said to me yesterday, he doesn't even know if he'd come back for a 6th year. That's how tough think about it. Right?
That's where the kids really don't understand, because they're still dealing. They can't even think about that right now, because they're still dealing with the emotion of the loss of the season. You know what I mean? Like, they can't even get to that part mentally, because it hasn't settled in yet. It's almost like a nightmare that you wake up tomorrow, it's going to go away, but it's real. I mean, I walked into the office on Friday. Nick and I drove up together because we live relatively close to each other at our houses, and we literally walked in the office, and for the first time in my life as a wrestling coach, I had no idea what to do in the office. I had no idea, because I was in preparation mode for the NCAAs. I was just bleeding in my heart for my kids, trying to explain to them. One of my team mentors talked to me, and he's like, what are you doing? Are you on campus? I said, I'm going home. I got to get out of here. I can't be here right now. And it just was so hard, because I know my kids have gone home, and it's a slap in the face. And the lifestyle that Jesse and Ethan and Dean and Cloud and all the other guys, they committed every day of every bit of their life to this opportunity, and it just got ripped apart from them. And it's really, really hard. And it's, you take a chance if you want to do it again, like Colin Moore said. That's why Jesse can't even get to that point in his thought process, because he's like, I'm considering it, but I have no idea what my future holds, Coach. He says, I will talk to you. I look forward to seeing you soon, but at this point, I have no idea what my future holds.
Even as you look at Laird does have another year, right?
Yes, he does.
Laird's got another year.
Not redshirted yet either.
But Laird's in a weight class that's pretty wide open. Laird's in a weight class where, like you're saying, he's in a weight class where Laird could punch through, depends on where he's on the bracket, and make a semifinal, right? Like, depends what quarter he's in, right?
Yeah.
But he's a guy that's, you know what I mean? Like, that's the thing that's got to be heart-wrenching to you guys, obviously. But once I don't even need to ask you the question. I can clearly see where you are. Everybody else is like, the logistics and the trickle-down effect and how it's going to affect scholarships and
You can figure it out. There's always what ifs in life. You can figure it out. And I don't think it's fair that they just do it for the seniors. I think they should do it for all the classes. And because it doesn't affect your scholarship dollars, I'm going to commit money to Ethan Laird next year no matter what. So that's not like I'm adding or adding an extra freshman, and then I have to add, my senior returning from this situation. Ethan is going to get what Ethan's going to get because Ethan's good at what he does.
Yeah.
So that's zero bearing. But he should get another year. He should be able to use this year as a redshirt year, straight up. That's just a fact. Because nobody cares about the regular season. Nobody cares about the conference tournament. You're always measured on the last 2 days of the season, and that's the NCAA tournament.
We're so March. Yeah. We're March focused. We're March focused, and that was the thing. Like, look at Iowa. Look at Iowa's whole situation. They were going to run the table. What you can say what you want to say.
They were going to blow this tournament out.
They were going to win by 20 plus points, in my opinion.
Yep.
Hey man, things happen. I get it, but they were set up, man, and they were going to run it from wire to wire. They were going to be consensus one, wire to wire, and what Penn State's done in the last 3-4 seasons, they've done it out of the 8 out of the last 9 they've won, right? Where they've just been like over the top, better than everybody. Iowa was what Penn State was in 8 of those 9, 5 or 6 of those seasons. Obviously, when they had David Taylor, Ruth, and then Zane, and then they had this overlap with Nolf. You know what I mean? Like, they had these teams, Megaludis. I mean, Bo Nickel. They've had these all-time greats on 8 teams, right? Right, and I think Iowa was in that position, and I think everybody knows. We already know the mentality of the Brands brothers. I mean. If I haven't tried to get a hold of them yet, but I don't even know. Like, I don't even know how I would approach talking to those guys because you live it, John. You really live it. You live this, like you just said. You live this. And Joel Greenlee's like, I go, hey Joel, can I call you back for another call? Well, yeah, I ain't got nothing to do. I got guys to train. I can't recruit no one. I can't do anything. I got all the time in the world, is what Joel Greenlee said to me.
It's a fact. Like, I'm like, why do I even need to go to the office? Because there's nobody to deal with. The kids are out off campus. I can't work out or train anybody. It's like I can do everything I need to do from home, which is going to drive me. I already said today's Sunday. It's not even Monday yet. I said the walls are starting to cave in already at my house. And I love being here. I love my family to death. And it's great to have special, extra time with them. But, man, I'll go stir crazy in another 3 days. No question.
How crazy is it getting over there on the East Coast? You obviously live in the biggest population center in America. You're at the crossroads. You're Philly, the city, Boston, D.C., Baltimore. Everything's within a 2-hour train ride at least, right?
Yeah.
Maybe not Boston. Maybe not Boston, right? But like Newark. I mean, it's all right there. There's within where you are right now. There's 50 million people within an hour drive, right?
No question.
Right?
And they're going to start shutting down parks. They're shutting down parks in PA. They're going to start doing open because people are just getting outside, but they're not understanding the social distancing thing. They're just and they're going to grocery stores. They're going to bars and stuff.
Yeah.
What are you doing? I get it. It's not like it's Armageddon. You don't need 90,000 rolls of toilet paper. You just that's being a little greedy and stuff. So they got cops in the ocean. In the brick Costco guarding the toilet paper because people are taking too much.
In Brick, New Jersey. In Brick, New Jersey, in a Costco, they have cops guarding the toilet paper so that people only take 2 rolls per family. I hate the uglier side of humanity. I don't like that. You know what I mean? That's nuts, man.
Now you're being greedy to the point where you're affecting the livelihood of other people just because you want to have have toilet paper for the next 8 years of your life in your house.
Yeah. I saw these two brothers in Tennessee that bought up all the hand sanitizer and wipes that they could in Tennessee. And then they were price
Right.
gouging on Amazon, and Amazon caught them and shut them down. And now the guys are like, what are we going to do with all this stuff we have? Right? Well, hey, you're greedy. You got what you deserve, you know, and that's the way I look at it.
Yes, you did.
You're
it's pretty crazy around here. Like, it's people are listening though. In this area, is that people are like, the streets are empty, the roads, the kids are outside doing their thing, but they're outside, they're not in closed quarters, they're small groups. They're like baseball clubs, baseball is big around where my house is, and they're saying, the Marlton Rec Council is saying that nothing for 8 weeks, no practices,
so crazy.
Nothing over 50 people can do anything, as far as gatherings. And like, I took my son to a baseball field today, just him and I, and threw the ball around and let him hit some swings and let him field some ground balls and stuff, just to get out of the house.
Yeah.
My kid loves baseball, but he's going to miss his 8th grade baseball season now, and he's like the big man on campus, so to speak, because 9th grade's next year and it's high school. So he's dealing with it on his level. He got a state tournament canceled. He's getting his baseball season canceled. My daughter's home from college, and she doesn't want to be there. She wants to be in college. She's a freshman. So people are starting to listen, I think, Zeb, but I think we're in for a much longer period than people anticipate.
Yeah, I'm thinking 6 to 8 weeks is probably a better. I think that's a better window. I don't think this 4-week thing. I don't think we're going to go back to school. I don't know that, but listening to the governor talk today and talking to some other people who I work with, it sounds like it's going to be so. And the whole thing, like, you really put it into perspective though. How your daughter, your son, your daughter. Your daughter wants to be in college. Where's she go?
She goes to Kane University, which is about an hour north of us, and she's a freshman. She's second semester freshman. She absolutely loves it there. She's doing great academically. She plays volleyball there. She was training spring season. It just got yanked, and she's like, I want to go back to college.
Jeez,
like, that's good, but right now you can't. But it affects everybody in a different way, but at the same level.
Yeah, man. No doubt, Hange, man. That is, wow. I think we're all just so lost. I'll be honest with you. I'm not lost at all. I still get to talk to you. I'm going to be doing online classes with my students.
Conversations with a lot of good people, right?
Yeah, and man, and I'm not being selfish. I am to a degree, but like, just if I'm, like, you guys are just, your hearts are ripped out and everything in your life, there's just the normalcy is just not there. Whereas we went hiking today. My one kid cried for a mile of a hike today, and I wouldn't pick him up. We hiked yesterday. I love hiking. It's like one of my favorite things.
But it's good for you.
Yeah.
It gets you outside.
Yeah, I'm gonna cut. We're running out of wood, so I got a couple chainsaws. So I live on 5 acres of woods. I'm gonna cut some trees that fell. I got some fell. They're leaners, and I gotta have one of my brothers help me. One will pull with the 4-wheeler. I'll cut. So I mean, there's a lot to do here.
You have to do that on a weekend, but now you get to do it.
Yeah. Now I'm gonna be doing it probably. I'll go into school tomorrow. Tomorrow's the last day they want us in. And then,
that you have to teach after, like, online and stuff.
Yeah. I have Google Classroom. Yeah, I have Google Classrooms. And what I'll do is the notes I would have lectured to the kids and the activities and the vocabulary that we go over, I'll put that all in the Google Classroom, and they will be able to do a lot of the stuff. But it's gonna be hard to give assessments and stuff like that.
It really is. I mean, it's basically getting in the work so that they get the days in and don't have to. Extend the summer vacations.
Yeah, I don't know what they're even going to do with that. If they're going to try and bring us back, and I don't even know. I couldn't even tell you.
They absolutely can't. There's no way, because summer will go into school will go into mid-July.
It'd be more than that. It'd be like August, and then they'd give a 3-week break, and then
you just can't do that to kids.
Yeah, the whole thing is.
It brings me back to that same scenario with the NCAA. They just got to do the right thing and figure it out. We got kids coming in on scholarships, like seniors are graduating. Give us the opportunity to figure it out. Don't just say no, you can't do it, because that's like a not a welcoming thought process. You need to just like say, okay, these kids got their lives ripped apart. Now the only good thing I think we have going for us is we're attached to basketball in this situation.
Yep.
They didn't get to finish their conference tournaments. They thought about doing a 16-team tournament. But it's like you got to do the right thing. You're in business to help the student athletes. you can't just slam a door on them and just say, okay, we're done. You've already given the spring sports something. You got to give even if it's the seniors, but then how do juniors, sophomores, and freshmen relate any different? They don't. I think you got to let schools and the NCAA figure it out. But yeah, there's a lot that goes into it. But don't just say, no, you can't do it because it's too many things to figure out. That's a crock of shit. You can figure anything out if you want.
Dead period. They hit you guys with this April 15th dead period. That really throws you for a whole nother level of no routine. The normalcy's been taken from you, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's smart, though, because, again, the contact thing, you don't want kids on campus. You don't want them traveling. It's just the precautionary thing that we're doing with the whole virus and stuff like that. So, but the good news is we can still text them. We can still call them. So we can still have communication with them. We just can't be physically in front of them. And we communicated with all our recruits and let them know that the 15th is, if it doesn't get extended, we will be scheduling visits immediately with you guys and stuff. So we've kind of, reacted to that, and it's been positive responses from our recruits, but it's the right thing to do. It's just another step in the whole precautionary measures of the virus.
The New York RTC, the one that Columbia has, where like Chamizo trains, yep. That's a standalone. That's the Edge, right? That's Hoboken.
Yeah.
They can still train. The New Jersey RTC cannot train.
Correct.
Which is at Princeton and Rutgers.
Yep.
So the thing I brought up today is David Taylor has his own standalone facility.
Yes.
Do you know that? He has the M2 Center, right? It's like in Central PA, within probably 20 minutes, half hour of State College, right?
Yes.
That is literally, beside the Jordans, who aren't even trying to make the Olympic team, Jim and Jeff Jordan's kids, Bo, Mickey, Rocky. Those are some of the only people I know that have a standalone. Cody Pack's dad has Legends of Gold. Cody Pack's not trying to make an Olympic team. But there's not a lot of people who have opportunities to train, and we don't even know when the Olympic trials are going to be.
Yeah, they just got postponed from the Bryce Jordan Center.
I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do with my hands. I don't know what to do.
That's exactly it. What do? You just got to play it by ear. You got to train alternate ways. I mean, it really stinks for those guys because they've got their dream of the Olympic, pursuit coming up, Olympic gold, and they got nowhere to train.
Listen, the only person who had any idea what to do with themselves that I've talked to in all of this is Tervel, because Tervel had Desi today. He had Desi wrestle and make the Olympics today.
Yeah.
And he was like, "Oh yeah, what's the only sporting event in North America?"
How did they let that go?
He said a doctor, an Ontario doctor, was like a local doctor was trying to get it shut down.
Really?
Yeah, because they did the Greco, which we had our Greco and our women's like blew it out of the water, right? Yeah. They had great days, and then Zane got caught and pinned today and didn't qualify the weight.
Overforced the leg lace.
And the guy caught him, and the guy, hey, he wanted it, and once he got him on his back, he wasn't letting him off. You can see that.
No. It's tough not to get pinned.
It really is in freestyle, man. But
it really is.
Tervel is the only person who had any perspective. He didn't know he was going to get back into America. He thought he was going to be able to sneak in on a bus or something. I go, dude, it ain't happening. You ain't inconspicuous. You're a monster. You're a moose.
Yeah, he's giant.
Yeah, he's a gigantic guy. But, he was the only one that really knew. Like, he had a plan for Desi. Like, he's like, Desi's cool for 8 weeks. He's like, Desi can weight train and run for 8 weeks if he needs to. He don't need to. And Desi's a freak. He's a mutant.
Desi is a freak.
So he don't, he's a big man that can move. He don't need to do this like hard grinding training because that's not how he came up anyway. Right. He came up through British Columbia and Vancouver, right? Came up under his dad was an Indian from India. Dad's from India, so he came up through a very different training system than what you're training your guys.
Right.
So Tervel had a plan.
What do you do with a Cox and a Snyder?
Yeah, exactly. That's the point.
You can't just run and lift weights.
No. And we're looking at one of the most anticipated matchups ever.
Dakin Burroughs.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, you can't just.
Yeah.
You got to train the way you're used to training, and I don't know if you have the ability to right now.
Colin Moore was like, he didn't know. He said Ross Thatcher has a place.
Right, because the Ohio State
shut down. They're not allowed in the room. Moran.
April 10th, everything.
Moran Karchalava, he has a place. And then Jeff Jordan. All that stuff's within striking distance, but it's like, those aren't ideal. You want to be in that Ohio State room, this Taj Mahal that they just built you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's why you went there. You went there to get done what you want to get done. And now you don't have that opportunity. So it's kind of like the Rocky, Rocky 4? Where he goes out to Russ.
Yes, that's what I compared it to. I said, dude, you're gonna be running down Neff Roads, one of those roads out there in Champaign County near the Jordans. I go, you're gonna be training in Neff Road. You're gonna stay in Jeff Jordan's log cabin, and you're gonna it's like there's this Jeff's got like the sweet house in the woods, a cabin, and then across the way is where everybody trains in one of the camps. He calls it the farm or the office is what he calls it. I was like, oh, you can go to the office or down the road a mile. Is where I went to camp and where I was a counselor, where Bo, Mickey, and Rocky were born and raised in this old farmhouse with a little pole barn where you could have 12, 15, 20 kids. I go, you can do that. And he was like, that would be cool. You know, he's a nice kid, but okay, hey, is there anything I'm missing, man? You know, I talk about a lot of stuff and I lead a lot here, but is there anything that you got for me?
I think assistant coaches are affected pretty, even maybe more. You know, like what I've learned over the last 3 years being a head coach is that you have to distance yourself a little bit because you got to deal with the bureaucratic stuff, and you got to put your professional, your administrative hat on, and you got to disappear sometimes, and you got a great assistant like, for instance, Nick Bedley. He's the best in the world, you know, and he was as devastated as the guys. That much I'll tell you. Like, I had to talk to him as much as I had to talk to the guys just to make sure he was okay. And because him and Jesse D and him and Dean and Ryan Wolf, my other assistant with Ethan and Cloud, were so connected to those guys. And that's the way it's supposed to be. And, they're like their big brothers almost, even though they're coaches and stuff. But it's like, those guys were just as devastated as a head coach was, and as the athletes were, they pour their heart and soul into it just because they know what it was like when they were athletes. They were successful. They got it done in the national tournament, and they wanted nothing more than to have those kids they work with have the same experience and memories that they had, and that's what tears them apart.
No doubt, man. I talked to Nick a lot, and Nick wants to win, man. Nick wants to win, and he'd lay in traffic.
He wants to do.
He'd lay in traffic for his guys, you know?
He would. Everything in his life is about competition and about winning.
Yeah.
And he goes about it the right way. He doesn't cut corners. His integrity's off the charts. His character's off the charts. You couldn't ask for a better guy guys like Jesse and Dean to have in his corner. And Ryan Wolf is no different. That's why they're great guys, and that's why they work at Ryder, because they're passionate about their kids.
Awesome, man. Well, hey, I'm going to cut this live. I'm going to cut this. Will you stick around for a little bit so I can talk to you post?
Yep, absolutely.
Post interview. Just say, let me cut this live interview, and I appreciate your time, Hange. Good luck to you guys moving forward, and I hope we find some normalcy here. Let me cut this guy off here, and it's been awesome talking.